really thrilled to be joined by the amazing Laura Thain, one of Australia's top women's leadership coaches. She's the founder of Optimise Talent Coaching. She's the host of the Contagious Leader podcast. Laura is an exec leadership coach, and she's worked with high-performing women leaders. And before that, she's had a long-standing corporate career with Michael Page. As a coach, she's worked with senior leaders, CEOs, and ambitious women, helping them to step into new roles, tackle workplace challenges, and return to work in their careers as well. So when it came to the topic of imposter syndrome, I knew that she would be the perfect person to help us dig into it and help us to work with it. So Laura, I'd just like to hand over to you, whether you've got anything to add to that short introduction.
Thank you, Philippa. You've summarized my goodness, I don't even know now, going on 20-year professional career, I guess, pretty well. But it's just such a pleasure to be here, and I have been really very much looking forward to getting in and meeting all of you on the Wellspirit community. So, but no, it's just really good to be here. And yeah, look, I have had my own journey with imposter syndrome, as well as supporting many others throughout the years. So, yeah, I hope that you can all take some great value from what we discussed today.
And this topic is a really important one, and I think it really matters. It's definitely something that I think for me during my career, there were definitely moments when I look back and I'm like, well, that were definitely imposter syndrome thoughts, but would never have thought about it like that at the time. And I think I've always generally been able to reframe effectively, especially in the early stages of my career. But I think now looking back, definitely when I returned to work, I definitely experienced imposter syndrome. Didn't know it at the time, but looking back, I did. And that's probably when I was about 6 months in, returning to work, and I just started comparing myself. I compared myself to my colleagues. I compared myself to who I was before I became a mum. And that was because I couldn't help but remember the old me would always be jumping at the chance to say yes to travel, for staying late, just generally having the energy to always go above and beyond. And then I found myself suddenly not really being able to do that. And there just weren't enough hours in the day, to stay up late, even work harder, perfect things. And so therefore I was like, I'm just not showing up as that person that I always used to be. Am I still that person that should be in this role? All of those thoughts and those feelings were coming up. And I think that's really what we're here to unpack today. And definitely those thoughts can come in when we're experiencing new transitions, whether it's a big step up in our roles or, big transitions in our own personal lives. And so we definitely need tools, not just to cope, but to really shift how we see ourselves and how we show up with the confidence that we need to be really successful. And that's exactly why I brought Laura in today to do this masterclass, and she's going to help us with this. So I will be guiding Laura through the masterclass with really 4 key questions around the themes of 1, like what is imposter syndrome? Secondly, how it shows up for working mums, and how can imposter syndrome really be of benefit to us, and what are 3 steps that we can take to turn imposter syndrome into our superpower. And Laura, over to you to take the stage, and I'd love you to tell us why it's important to understand what imposter syndrome is, and really why the majority of us experience it at points in our life.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing your story there, Philippa, to kick us off as well. I think it sets the scene really nicely. And so fundamentally, I think the importance of understanding it's like anything. If we're feeling certain things, we're feeling a certain way, and we don't understand why, then it can be very confusing. It can leave us frustrated, not knowing. So fundamentally being able to understand, well, what is this that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this? And what can I do about it? So it is really powerful, right? So having that self-awareness, or the awareness over what it actually is really, really important for that reason alone. It's like, once we've got the awareness, then we know what it is, therefore we can do something about it. We're empowered to be able to do something about it. And so the interesting thing about imposter syndrome is that I hear and have heard, and I've probably done it myself over my career too, or my lifetime, is I hear so many people say that they're maybe battling with or feeling or suffering from imposter syndrome. And when they start to explain what they're actually experiencing, a lot of the time, not all, but a lot of the time I start to hear that actually it's not really imposter syndrome that they're experiencing. And so to set the scene for us, there's imposter syndrome, and then there's general feelings of self-doubt or low confidence, or I'm going to say lack of self-worth, right? That's where a lot of this stems from. Whether we like it or not, that's the honest truth a lot of the time. And so imposter syndrome is a feeling that we are not good enough for where we're at. We're not good enough for the position that we're in or the role that we're undertaking. But importantly, it's this feeling that at any given moment, someone's going to come and tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, you don't deserve to be here. Why are you here? And I'm sure these are all things, if you battled it or you suffer from it yourself, these are maybe thoughts or feelings that you may have had. So it's this distinction between a general feeling of I doubt myself in this role, or I doubt myself in this moment, versus I feel like I don't deserve to be here. Why am I here? I haven't earned my my stripes well enough. I shouldn't be here, and that we might get found out. That's the imposter syndrome piece. And so self-doubt is naturally therefore a big feeling or component of imposter syndrome. Or, we might say imposter phenomenon. That's hard for me to say with a bit of a stuffy nose at the moment, phenomenon. But imposter phenomenon, which we may hear it referred to as well. And really the background to that is that, a lot of people believe if we refer to it as imposter syndrome, it's like this disease, right? And we don't want to feel like we've got a disease or we're suffering from this illness. It's like, it's not, it's this phenomenon. So either or, but we most commonly, of course, hear the term imposter syndrome. So we're using that because it's most common, I guess. So really that distinction between the two. So that said, if you're sitting here now and thinking, well, hold on a minute, I don't necessarily feel that I do have these feelings of imposter syndrome specifically, then everything that we discussed today will still be really, really helpful and relevant, I promise you. But for the most part, and again, I'll share a stat which I share all the time with people, that depending on what survey you read around the globe, 70 to 80+% of the population at any point in time will suffer from imposter syndrome. 70 to 80+%. So it's pretty normal, very normal. And therefore, I think I like to encourage people to take some comfort from that. But if we think about it, when we think around this feeling of not being good enough or the feeling of getting caught out, and we link that to, well, why would this be more prevalent in high achievers? It is more prevalent in high achievers, in those that have actually, ironically, earned their place. They've earned their stripes. They do deserve to be there. But it's within that cohort that we typically find imposter syndrome showing up more, is within those people that actually do deserve to be there. So it's super ironic and crazy in many ways, right? Like we have that sense, but yet the reality is that we, most of the time, are very capable, do have what it takes, and do deserve to be there.
Hearing that, Laura, it's so informative, because I think a lot of us, I think we appreciate that there's people out there with imposter syndrome, but we don't exactly know how it really is relevant for us. And so knowing how it impacts high achievers can help us just be okay with that, be okay with what we're thinking and we're feeling. And so what I'd really love you to do now is to deep dive into how it can really play out for mums in particular, mums going through big transitions, mums who are juggling so much in their lives.
Yeah, which is, again, super important, because if we think about it as a mum, a working mum, regardless of whether it's first child, second child, third child, fundamentally there has been a change in who you are, perhaps, or how you identify as, as an individual. You now have a new role to play in the world. It's maybe mum for the first time, or it's mum for 2, 3, whatever, right? As well as then the role that you play or played, if you're, not quite back at work yet, in the working environment. And so there's significant change in identity and significant change in circumstances can mean that, even though, and Philippa, your story before really touched on this and set the scene, like I say, really quite nicely, because this is exactly it. is that sense of, well, I used to be able to do all of this. That was my identity. That's how I um, kind of portrayed myself in the world. That's how I showed up in the world. That's how I defined maybe my success. Maybe that's how I defined my worth, right? That's very, very common. But yet now I've got this new set of responsibilities, this new role that I've got to take, and this therefore is new. So I haven't yet proven myself to be able to do this. I haven't proven it to myself. I haven't proven it to anyone else that I can do this role or this new opportunity maybe that we're going back into or into now that we are a mum for 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. Again, it's this shift that we've experienced. And so it's no wonder, therefore, if we give ourselves a bit of grace, it's no wonder that therefore these feelings of yikes, I don't know if I can anymore. I don't know if I do have what it takes anymore. Should I be here? Because I'm tired. I haven't slept for days, or I my mind is not on this job. My mind's in my little one who's just gone into daycare for the first time, or what have you. So naturally, therefore, of course, we're going to feel different when we go into that or go through that transition period. And it's the same, I'll touch on it while we're on the subject of transition. It's the same if you were, taking on a new role or a new promotion. We're typically going to feel imposter syndrome, if we're going to feel it, at a time when there's a change or a transition, because again, it's new. We haven't done it yet. So we haven't yet been able to prove to ourselves that we can. So we start to doubt, and we start to think that maybe we shouldn't be here. Maybe we don't deserve to be here. And if I think around the individuals that I have worked with over the years, and many of them, because they're women, naturally are therefore mums, or, mums returning to work, or currently working in roles and juggling everything in that sense, the ways in which it shows up is vast and wide, as you can imagine, but a real feeling of almost this push-pull is one of the things that I say I would see consistently of, I want to be able to succeed and do well at my job like I always did, but yet I also want to be the great mom and the great whatever I want to be over here. And so how can I possibly, because I'm still only one human with 24 hours in a day, like everybody else, how can I possibly juggle these two? And so it's that push-pull, the guilt that maybe shows up around that. What if I'm putting all my energy over here, this one's going to slip, or if I'm putting all my energy over here, this one's going to slip. I'm just not able to keep up with this anymore. How can I possibly keep up with this anymore? So I see that certainly a lot. I mean, typically if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, you probably, like, not always, but typically might have a sense of perfectionism about you. I certainly do. I like to consider myself a recovering perfectionist. No, not a recovering perfectionist, a perfectionist under control. That's how I like to consider myself. Right. And so naturally, therefore, you want to be doing everything really, really well. And so you're putting all of your effort and all of your energy into all of the pots, and naturally, therefore, and you're already tired because, you got Bub at home. And then we can start to make mistakes because we're tired and because we're trying to, do everything perfectly. But at the same time, maybe that's just not viable right now because we're only human and we've only got so many hours and energy and all of these things. So ironically, again, what can happen is that we do start to make more mistakes. And with those mistakes, therefore, we go, see, I told you I told you I wasn't good enough for this. I told you I couldn't do that. I knew it. I knew I didn't deserve to be here. And really, it's just almost like this, I'm going to say systemic problem. I'm not sure that's quite the right word, but, internal systemic problem almost. We start to become almost the victim of our own actions, in that we're setting ourselves up for that because we're not doing the right things to protect ourselves, to protect our energy, to reduce our need for perfectionism, all these things in order to stop the mistakes from happening. So things like that I certainly see showing up a lot as well, for particularly for working mums, because there is that push-pull.
I think a lot of us will be hearing that and feeling seen as you expressed that, Laura. So how do we flip all of these thoughts and feelings, and how can we actually see imposter syndrome as potentially something that actually can be of benefit to us and help us grow and find that confidence that we're really wanting?
Well, this is what I love, of course. Being a coach, coaches are generally, like looking forward. Let's not look back and dwell on the past. Let's look forward. Let's make hay of this, and let's, create sunshine from this, or lemonade for the lemons, all the good stuff. And so really, if you think about the fact that if you have imposter syndrome, if you're suffering from it, then really it just means that you care, right? Like it means that you care. And so we can start to flip it and think, okay, so maybe this can be my motivating, driving force then to be the person that I want to be. Maybe you already are, but you don't know it yet, or you don't believe it yet. So you can use it as that motivating force. And really, when we think about imposter syndrome, and again, Philippa, you said it in your intro earlier around this state of comparison. We're generally looking at somebody else and thinking they can, I can't. They've got it, or I don't. They deserve to be here. I don't. They're way better than me. All of these things, right? So we're in this state of comparison. And so one thing that I like to share with people is the idea that, comparison in and of itself isn't a bad thing, right? Like I don't personally believe that, if I was to look at, I don't know, Hannah, you're on like my eye line here. So I was to look at Hannah, assuming that you work in marketing, Hannah. I don't, right? But I do a lot of marketing, of course, with my own business. I could look at Hannah and think, oh my God, Hannah is way better at marketing than me. My goodness, I could never possibly be as good as that. I do not deserve to be doing my own marketing. Hannah should be doing it for me. But that's negative comparison, where I compare myself to somebody and it's not serving me. It's negative, right? It's pushing me back. It's making me feel worse or terrible about myself or my own ability. Whereas if we flip it and change it to healthy inspiration, which is where I might look at Hannah and think, geez, Hannah's great at marketing. I'm sure you all are, by the way. Of course. All of you, you're all great at marketing. And geez, that's so inspiring to me that that's the case. And wow, I could learn a lot if I look up to these people. So you can still look up to the person, you can still look over and compare, but let's compare for inspiration to be the person that we want to be, to do all the things that we want to get, learn all the skills, all those pieces, as opposed using it or sitting in that place of discomfort and negative comparison. So that's really my piece on that, is just using it as a motivating force, a driving force to get better.
I think also as mums, we have two roles. We have the role in our day job, and then we have the role of mum. And we have almost these two comparative levels going on, how we're performing in comparison to colleagues. We're doing motherhood and parenting and being and showing up as a mum. So flipping it in that way can definitely be of benefit. Knowing that, what then are those tools or techniques that we can take to really leverage imposter syndrome as a positive trait for ourselves and really turn it into a superpower?
What do we do about it? Let's talk action and moving forward and sitting, getting out of the heaviness, right? If let's be real for a moment. If we're sitting in this space of imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, feeling like we don't deserve to be there, feeling like at any moment now somebody's going to come and kick us out or fire us or what have you, or get pulled up at mum's group for not doing something right, whatever it is, then it's not a good place to sit in, right? It's a really ugly, negative, energy draining place to be in. So we want to move out of that and lift the burden, as I say. Like it can feel like a real burden on our shoulders, right? And so one of the things that I always encourage people to think about is to remind yourself that if you have it, you care. And so flip it from, rather than, oh, I have this imposter syndrome and I'm not good enough and I don't deserve to be here. I'm feeling or experiencing this imposter syndrome, and that means that I care. That means that I want to ensure that I am being the best that I can be in whatever role it is that you're performing in life, whatever role it is you're performing in life. Because again, it's easy, I think, for people to think that imposter syndrome only shows up in the workplace. Clearly, it doesn't. It does not, right? It can show up in any element of our lives, whenever we're comparing ourselves and feeling like we're not worthy or not good enough. So, reminding ourselves that if we're experiencing it, that in and of itself is not a bad thing. We don't have to equate, oh, I feel this, therefore life is bad. It's okay. I care. I care about the results that I get. I care about the way in which I lead my people, or I deliver my work, or I raise my child, whatever it is. It means that I care. So let's work on reframing that and flipping the switch on that. Yeah, the other point just on that, remember the statistic. I mean, it's a great one. I shared that with a client that, any survey you read across the globe, typically 70 to 80+%. And some of the surveys, by the way, are done across specifically CEOs. So how crazy is that? 70 to 80% of CEOs, like big global corporations, admit that they suffer from imposter syndrome. These people are not people that don't deserve to be there for the most part. I mean, sure, some of them maybe, but mostly they are these people that have already done it. They've achieved it. So it's crazy. And I like to remind people, remind yourself you're in good company. You're among high achievers if you're experiencing this. So that's a really good one to remember. The other part then that really linked to that, I would say, which I touched on before, is to think about, okay, so how can I learn from, or what can I learn from the person or the people maybe that I am comparing myself to? So what are the skills gaps that I have that I actually can build into my growth plan, and that I can use as, again, that motivating force to be able to take control of this feeling that I've got, to take control of this feeling of inadequacy or feeling of not being worthy or good enough. So thinking about the fact that simply if you're suffering from it, if you're battling with it, it means that you care. Statistically, it means that you probably have what it takes. Reminding yourself of that, taking some comfort from that. Using it, therefore, as your motivating force rather than this force that can kind of squash us back down and stop us from achieving all the things that we know we want to achieve. And thinking about how we can identify in these people that we do compare ourselves to, okay, well, what are they doing that is better than me, or I think is better than me? Let's not use it as a bad thing. Let's use it as inspiration, motivation to actually learn from them and build that into a growth plan. Because, even though we might suffer from imposter syndrome, and we might think for the most part it's not, it's the word I want to use, I'm going to say not valid. That's not quite the right word I want to say, but it's not deserved. Let's use that. That's probably more where I want to say. And it's sort of like this, well, you do deserve to be there. Even though we might feel that, let's be real, sometimes we do have skills gaps, right? Sometimes we do have things that we're not quite good enough at yet. And that's a really key part, is that word yet. We're not good enough at it yet. So we've still got time to learn. And that's okay. Whenever you take on a new role, any of us take on a new role. I mean, I spent 17 years of my career working in the recruitment sphere, hiring, white collar professionals, C-suite, and most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, organizations are pretty aware that then they're going to hire somebody that has a skills gap of some kind, even if it's just getting to know that particular organization or getting to know that particular team that they're taking on. There's a gap of some kind, fair enough. Otherwise, why would you take the role? That'd be pretty boring, right? You're not going to have anything to learn. And so it's expected, it's normal that we have this gap, and therefore we grow into it. We're just not there yet. It's not that we can't, we're just learning. And for a high achiever, for the most part, That's what we want. We want something to go up. We want to keep getting better. Most people value growth or personal development of some kind, that feeling of moving forward. And so actually that's a really powerful thing that we can use to our benefit rather than to our detriment.
And Laura, I I feel that word yet is really powerful because actually in my own life, I remember those sort of imposter thoughts sneaking in when I was younger, in my career. And I overcame them because I was reframing my thoughts with that version of yet, right? It felt natural that I'm learning, I'm going to get there in the end. And I look back and I just wish I had that same word when I came back to work in motherhood, right? Like I was still fundamentally finding my way into that identity of being a mother. And I think if I'd been able to reframe it in the way that I'm getting there, it's a journey, I'm not there yet, it would have been really powerful and really great. Thank you for sharing that. So can you please for us just summarize 3 things that we can remember as we go back into our busy job?
Yeah, of course. So reframing the fact that if you have it, it means that you care. Automatically, it doesn't, I mean, by default, it means that you care, right? And that's a good thing. It means that you're someone who strives to perform well at whatever it is that you do. That's not a bad thing. That's a very, very admirable and I argue empowering trait. So if you have it, it means that you care. Doesn't mean that you're automatically not good enough. It means that you care. That's a good thing. A lot of people don't. So this is good. Secondly, then I say look to those people that you are comparing yourself to and use them as your inspiration rather than the people that can make you feel inadequate. So look up to them, compare to them in a healthy way that inspires you, as opposed that makes you feel inadequate and not worthy and like you don't deserve to be there. And then linked to that, I would say, is then pick it apart. Identify what are my skills gaps. Or they may not even be skills gaps, they may just be areas that you personally just don't feel as confident in when you do them. Outside looking in, people probably think you're amazing at them, but you don't feel it yet. That's okay. So then what do you need to do to close that gap so that you can feel more confident doing these things, to build your skill up or to build your confidence up in whatever aspect or role it is, and actually create yourself a little growth plan?
I think that is really fantastic and just easy to remember things that we can do to reframe and flip the script on imposter phenomenon as you described it. I'd love to just move us into the Q&A section of our masterclass. I've got a couple of questions that have been asked by members that haven't been able to make this session today, and I did promise I'd ask their questions on their behalf. So we'll just skip into those. So Laura, the first question I have is from Emma. The question goes, as a mum working part-time in a marketing exec role, I often feel like I need to constantly prove my value, especially when I can't always be in the room or jump into late meetings. So how can I stop these imposter thoughts that I'm not giving or participating enough and they're starting to hold me back?
Yeah, which is a real challenge, right? Like if you physically can't be there, uh, and you care about doing a good job and being seen to do a good job, then naturally the mind's going to wander and think, well, what's happening in the room when I'm not there? And, are they delivering on the things and are they saying the things that I would want to say if I were there? And so I always would think here around a couple of things of making sure that the expectations are really clear and set, which, I mean, Emma, without you being here, obviously it's hard to kind of go under the skin of it, but I would be making it clear that, whatever it is that I wanted to get said while I wasn't around, that I had my right people on my side who were able to share that in my absence, and link to that, making sure that the necessary follow-up was in place. So, if this happens, then do this and, report back to me at this point, whatever, like the kind of follow-up accountability pieces might be around that. I talk around building your trusted allies, or your trusted army, which is around having your right allies in place. So, I believe, and it might sound really like quite simple, but I truly believe that if we've got the right relationships in place, then most problems that we experience or challenges that we experience can be overcome pretty easily, because we can lean on the right people and have them know that they've got our back. And so, Emma, as someone in that situation, I would be making sure that the right relationships are there and in place. And, who's got my back when I'm not in the room? Who can I really, really be relying on to trust that they are doing the right thing by me when I'm not around? And again, feeding back or reporting back when the meeting's done, or whatever it might be.
I think one of the biggest kind of problem areas that she's trying to address is just that availability of not being able to show up when there's the need, or when others are staying late when she just knows she can't. So it's just that fear of the inadequacy
Yes.
of being part-time only.
Yeah. Thank you for re-clarifying. Yeah. And so I would spend some time reminding myself, what is my job? What am I here to do? What is expected of me? Because when we strip it back to that, we can shine a light on the fact that, do you know what, I'm not actually expected to be in that room or to be working full time because I'm employed on a part-time contract. Now, I get it. I'm a total realist. We can be employed on a part-time contract and still be getting work thrown at us that is the equivalent of a full-time role, or there or thereabouts, right? Yeah, so that's real. Then it comes into the whole piece around, well, how do we have those conversations to manage that, and all the pieces, which I'm sure we're not going to get into today. But I would be taking a moment to take a step back and remind myself of, what am I fundamentally here to do? What's most important to me at this particular stage in my journey of life, of my career? Because if we're feeling this like, I know I'm part-time, but yeah, I really think I should be, reminding myself of why did we do it in the first place? Why did I say I needed this part-time opportunity as opposed going back full-time? What was the point of that? What was the purpose of it? Why is this important to me? And if we can sit in that space of, yeah, that's right, because I really needed to be there with my family, with my kids, what have you, other things in life, whatever else they may be, as well as bring income in and still maintain my career. Okay. And it check back in too, if then you do that and you realize that it's not what I want anymore. Okay. Well, then we can start to make um strides to change it, right? Maybe it's time to go full time. Maybe it's time not to work at all, whatever it might be. But reminding ourselves why we did it in the first place, I think, when we catch ourselves in those moments of comparison and, coulda, woulda, shoulda, old me would have been full time in there all the time, remind ourselves why we're doing it. That can be really powerful.
Thanks, Laura. And it actually just brought something back to my mind. When we last talked, you were talking about the power of sharing those thoughts that you're having with somebody else.
Yes.
I feel like that could be useful here. Can you just tap into that?
Right. Thanks, Philippa, for the prompt. You're like, Laura, I swear you've got this other thing. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Like, sharing the fact of how you feel, like anything, can just lift that weight off our shoulders. Like, you think about any time that you've had a problem or a challenge of any kind, and you've just spoken to somebody about it, be it a friend, a family member, a colleague, whoever, or even just journaled it for yourself, right? If you really want to keep it private, that's how you operate. It just takes it off. It kind of takes the weight off it. And most of the time, if we're sharing back to somebody, so Emma, if she was sharing with you, Philippa, for example, I'm sure many others here, then you would go, yeah, I had that too. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, or I have that too. I feel that too. What I found helps me is blah, blah, blah. Maybe you get some tips and tricks off, people in your immediate sphere. Or just knowing that you're not alone and that somebody else experiences it, that in and of itself is so powerful, just to again lift that weight.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you. And also a question from Natalie. So her question is, I'm back from parental leave. I'm working in a B2B tech role, and I feel like the industry's moved on, especially with AI and automation. Everyone seems more on top of things than me. So how can I reframe that in my mind as I figure out how to get up to speed and get the training I need?
Yeah. Okay. So everyone, you've come back and everyone else appears to be well and truly across this new tech and AI, and you've got that comparison going on of like, oh dear, I'm not up with the times. And okay, well, first of all, I love that. Was it Natalie? Yeah, Natalie, I love that you're saying that you're acknowledging that I'm just not there yet. That's good. And that you're on the plan and the journey to actually grow and learn these pieces. But yeah, what can you do in the meantime to sort of alleviate that feeling of weight of comparison? Again, I think what we've just said, like sharing it. So if we feel it, then I would say, yeah, share it. I know this is what I'm feeling. So look to whoever it would be that's appropriate and relevant. You appear to know all of this, that, and the other. Gosh, I'm really feeling like I've come back and I don't know this, da, da, da. And you might find that your perception of what they know versus what they actually know is probably quite different, particularly if it's AI. I mean, I feel like everyone's still learning AI, aren't they? So I don't know that anyone's well and truly across it yet. Um, but then again, use them as your inspiration. So maybe you can use these people to say, hey, I'm just feeling like I'm a bit behind. Like, what did you do to get up to speed most quickly? Or if you were me coming into this now, feeling this way, where should I go first? What's the best tool or whatever that I should spend my time on first? It's going to give me the biggest impact. So again, use these people as your guides, as your mentors that, if you look up to them and think they know more, maybe they do. That's okay. Great. This is a good thing. This is a good tool that we can access to be able to learn from them. So some of those pieces that we said earlier, I think will, potentially support with some of that too. Um, and yeah, just the mindset piece with all of these things. I mean, it is a mindset piece at the end of the day, and reminding ourselves what value you do bring. So sure, you might not know the AI yet or what have you, but what do you know that you bring? And reminding ourselves of that can be really, really powerful and empowering to us as well. Um, and even, I mean, to take that even one step further, you might say, okay, hey, you all seem to be cracking on this AI technology stuff. I'm not there yet. While I'm learning, what can I do extra or different maybe to play my part here? So I feel like I'm on more of a level playing field and contributing equally. So you're doing all the AI tech stuff, I'm learning that, while I'll do this instead, so I still feel like I'm giving equal value. Things like that perhaps as well that might be worthwhile thinking about.
I definitely take from that, like turning doubt and fear into just proactive action,
Yeah.
right? And when you're so focused on action and closing that gap, it turns into that mindset of growth. And it's just, you can be disciplined enough to just make that slight switch. It can make such a big difference.
Yeah, much more empowering, right?
Getting into that empowered mindset is everything. So I would like to just open the floor to anyone who has any questions. I know that we've had quite a few comments in 4 days a week and struggle with FOMO or jumping into work on your day off. Okay, we definitely know that it's a challenge working 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and just wanting to be there, right, for your team and for your job and show up. So completely get that.
Yeah, jumping into work on your days off, I mean, guilty too. But and probably always have been. But one of the things I must say that since I've worked for myself, um, I don't know why the big shift really, do some of my own digging on that, but since I have worked for myself, I really resent if I choose to do work when I've told myself I won't, versus weirdly when I was in corporate, I didn't kind of mind it as much. Don't know what that's all about. I'll do some digging and let you know. But it's thinking about what will happen, almost challenging ourselves to think about, what will happen if I do this? Or what won't happen if I don't do this? So if you're thinking, oh, I need to jump in, I need to check my emails, or I need to jump in on our days off, challenging ourselves to almost think about, well, what's going to be the benefit of this before you automatically go in and do it? What will be the benefit, or what am I hoping to achieve by doing this? Is it just to show presence? Okay, well, let's challenge that. Do I need to show presence? Why do I feel like I need to show presence? Is it to set myself up so I don't go in the next morning when I am actually working and be met with 100 gazillion emails and feel stressed? Okay, and then we can still keep challenging ourselves to go, okay, so if I do this now, how will this actually help me to feel less of that overwhelmed tomorrow morning, or whatever it is that we're going to feel? And just keep challenging ourselves. There's a concept of the 5 times why, which many of you may be familiar with, where you just keep digging. You ask yourself why, why, until you get to the real root cause of what you're actually trying to achieve by doing this thing or something. And sometimes, often, we can get to the point where we realize that actually, I don't actually need to jump in and do work today. I thought I did, I perceived like I did, but actually when I've thought about it deeper, I don't need to. What's more important for me right now is to, I don't know, spend time just being free, having an extra coffee, or whatever it might be, more time out for ourselves, or time with loved ones, time with family, time with the kids, whatever it might be. So just challenging ourselves on why we're doing it, and then asking ourselves, when will I actually do my best work? If I do this now, am I going to do my best work? Because most of the time we want to do our best work, be real. And so will I do my best work now, while I'm half on cooking dinner and half on the emails, or will I do my best work when I'm actually focused the next time I'm formally back at work? And we might get it done quicker by doing it at the right time. Be more effective most of the time. Maybe some extra food for thought.
Thanks, Laura, for that. I just want to actually just reflect on a comment earlier in the chat. It totally resonates with me. I can only do 9 to 4 in the office with childcare drop off and pick up. And it really makes me worry that I feel like, or I'm being seen as just slacking off. And I used to be the one in the office early and in the office late. Yeah, I mean, it is just one of those things. Yeah, how do you deal with those thoughts around what
Yeah.
others people are perceiving of you?
Yeah, well, it is. And again, it's the fear of judgment, or the comparison, right? Or he or she doesn't, as far as I see, leave at this time, and I am, and yikes, what does that make of me? And the fear of, yeah, that judgment, that other people are going to judge me for slacking off. And my goodness, as you share that, Philip, I'm just thinking back to some of my corporate days, and like, absolutely. But that was at a time when we were judging people. We were judging people. We were, what what where are you going? Oh my God, like, to think back now, it's actually quite crazy that, no, I'm not kidding, like, we did that. And I absolutely looked at other people and thought, naughty, naughty, you should be at your desk. That was the culture that we were, I'm gonna say, raised into, or certainly I was in my field and companies. And so I think, again, bringing it back to why we're doing it. Okay, so why does this matter to me on a personal level? Because often that reason why we're doing it is going to supersede any of the potential judgment that we might get. Okay, so therefore, what's more important to me? That I worry that Johnny over there in the corner thinks I'm a slacker, or that I get to do the thing that I'm going home to do, or going wherever I'm going to do. What's more important to me? Okay, that I leave. Okay, righty ho, that I'm still leaving. And reminding ourselves as well of all of the again, the value that you've brought. Have you done your job? If you've done your job that day, or even if you haven't, I'm sure you still deserve to, like, get out on time or get home to kids or what have you. Reminding yourself of all the things that you have done, the value that you have brought that day. But thirdly, I would say, again, share it. You know, hey, you know what I realize? Like, when I leave, I've realized that I don't want to say, I've got this weird thing where I feel like everyone's judging me. And if you say that to people that are actually in some kind of a, circle of control, sphere of influence, or what have you, that actually matter, the chances are, and I hope it might not always be the case, but the chances are that we're going to be met with somebody that responds by saying, "Oh my God, don't be so silly. We don't think that," or I look at you, Philippa, and I think that that's inspiring that you leave and I don't. I wish I could be like you. And I'll tell you, I used to think that of my boss. I had a new leader come on board at one point in time, and he really led the way with this. He had young kids, found 3 kids, like the whole shebang. And he really led the way. And at first it was like, who's the new guy? Like, oh, slacker, what's this? And he was doing it intentionally to set the scene, to change the culture. And he did it because we all wanted to do it. The judgment was coming from something, that a jealousy almost, of like, I wish I could do that, really deep down. And so by knowing that we're actually setting the scene for probably doing things that other people want to do, we're actually leading the way. We're not a slacker, we're a leader. We're empowering other people to see what's possible. again, and that's true, it's not just a sneaky little reframe. It is very often true. You are actually inspiring other people and showing them that what's possible by leaving at whatever time you're leaving, rather than them looking at you and thinking you're a slacker.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a powerful framing also is that we can be leaders at any level. And so it's absolutely your ability to leave even as a junior in a team at the time that's right for you, right? That's self-leadership at its best.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thanks.
really important point. You're a leader can lead in any capacity. So leadership isn't a title; it's a behavior. It's a way of being.
Totally. And I think the more of us in the workplace that do lead by example and lead early because we are mums and we've got two full-time jobs that we're juggling, the more it can be empowering to other mums that are potentially sitting there going, I really need to leave and, it's daycare pickup time, right? So we're all in this together and we can help each other by leading by example. Laura, thank you so much for sharing all your insight around imposter syndrome, sharing how one can just flip it and use it as a positive trait, but also those tools and techniques that can really help us when those imposter thoughts come up in the future. So thank you so much. And Laura, I'd love you to share with everyone listening today how they can reach you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everyone for joining. Whether here live, it's great to see so many friendly faces looking back at me. And whether you're on the replay too, thank you for tuning in. I really hope that you've got some value from it. I always say with these things, even if you take one little piece away, that just, even if it's a reminder of something that you already knew, I always think that's time well spent, because it just gives us that little confidence boost or pep up for the day or for the weeks ahead. So I hope that you've taken some value from it. And yeah, if you want to follow along with me or stay in touch, I spend a lot of time hanging out on LinkedIn. So I'm just Laura Thain, my first name, last name on LinkedIn. On Instagram, I'm Coach Laura Thain, one word, Coach Laura Thain. So Coach, first name, last name. And my website is Optimise Talent with an S, optimisetalent.com.au. And that's got all my coaching, programs and details and more bits and pieces. But and yeah, podcast too. I only started that in January, so it's always an evolving beast. And for sure, let me say, when I started that, I would say there's a bit of imposter syndrome. Who am I to run a podcast? What? And then lo and behold, like anything, you take action, you do it, your confidence compounds, and you realize that you're just running your own race. You're not there to compare to anybody else. That's a really important part.
Yeah, those words are really motivating. And well done you for doing such an amazing podcast. I think it's going to help so many women out there be the real leaders that they can be. So Laura, thank you so much for being available to share your wisdom with us today. And thanks everyone for dialing in. It's been great to have your feedback and your comments and thoughts in the chat. So thank you all for dialing in. And I hope this can be of help to you guys in your careers and as you juggle your career and raise your family. So big thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.